Welcome once again. And this is African TV. This is, of course, Humanist TV Africa. And your host today is Kato Mukasa. And, of course, the producer is Dennis Bongole, who is based in Uganda. Here is Kato Mukasa, going to take you through a very interesting story of Israel. What do you know about Israel? Now come listen in as I take you through this interesting history of their story, so that I can be able to connect their story with the present situation. Today's episode is about the history of Israel, and I'm going to summarize it in about 45 minutes. I want to summarize it in about 45 minutes. This is Kato Mukasa. You're looking at Israel versus Palestine, Zionism, Existentialism, or self-determination. But I'm going to be giving you a history of Israel. This is episode 1. And my co-host, Nandepo Bongfa, Andrew, will be joining me a little later, and then he'll be able to also give his own perspective. Andrew, as I know right now, I want to encourage you to watch in the sidelines. Then I'll be able to get you on set and then be able to give your own contribution. Welcome once again. This is Kato Mukasa, African Humanist TV. Here we go with the history of Israel. Do you know where Israel started from? What the name was? Or you think it was Israel the way it is today? Do you know how many generations that passed without going back to that place that we called Levante at one point? Do you know how Palestine came to be created where it is? Or do you know who owned it and why the Israelites were chased from their own land? Do you know a connection between the Palestinians and the Jews? All these things are going to be discovered in this show. And do you know why? Do you know why? Israelites always say, never again, never again, never again. Do you know why they always say never again? We're going to be able to understand it in this very show, so that you're going to know how much they have been attacked, how much they have been destroyed, how much they have been killed, the revolutions they have made, and all that in the history of Israel. Without further ado, Dennis, let us start with the history of ancient Israel. Where is this nation? So Israel under persecution, remembering the rulers who destroyed Israel. Israel under persecution, remembering the rulers who destroyed Israel. I'm going to give you a brief history that actually Israel has existed. The Jews, of course, have existed since the beginning of humanity, and they have been in that area for a long time. They only left it about 1,000 years ago. They left that area, they left that place, but they were there before. Now they have been ruled by the Assyrians, who took over Israel. The year is 586 to 516 BCE. Of course, they were ruled by the Philistines. There was a man called Antioch, who destroyed Israel. Antioch, I'll be able to give you all the details about this guy. Of course, Cyrus the Great saved Israel from one point. They were occupied by the Medians, the Aram, Persians, Babylonians, and of course, they were occupied by the Romans. But we remember, among the Romans, who really was so hard on them was one of them was Adrian, Emperor Adrian, and of course, we also saw Emperor Nero. destroying Israel. Of course, we saw also a general who became an emperor, Vespasian, and his son Titus, who also demolished Jerusalem and Galilee between 67 and 81 AD. 81 AD. All these were destructions. Of course, this was the Flavian dynasty, which lasted from 69 to 96 AD. Of course, there was Emperor Adrian, I mentioned him, who destroyed Israel, AD 130. Of course, we saw so many others. Israel was wiped out by about 600 before. 600 years before the birth of Jesus Christ, Israel was no more. By the time Jesus Christ was born, 600 years ago, Israel was no more. Now, of course, we know that they were taken in exile. Israelites have been taken in exile. The Jews have been taken in exile by Assyrians, by Persians, by Babylonians, by Romans, by the Ottoman Empire, by the Greek at one point, all these empires have been taking advantage of the Jews over the years. The Ottoman Empire forced the Jews to convert to Islam. Of course, we shall understand that what happened. They were forced to eat things to do with, things they never wanted to do. Of course, the Romans forced them to eat pork and all other things. The Muslims, the Ottoman Empire forced them to pay a tax so that they can be able to survive. The jizya taxation for protection. They were made as a protectorate. They were made as a point of contact, where they were being ruled by mediators in between. Of course, later on we see Herod coming in to rule the Jews. Of course, we see the Jews being considered as second-class citizens by the Ottoman Empire. They were called dhimmi. Of course, they were taken over by Romans again and again and again. Of course, we also see that in the year 1090, the papacy defends Jerusalem, because now the papacy Christianity has been formed. Of course, AD 325 by Constantine. Of course, the papacy now takes over and wants to defend Israel. We remember the Templars, the Knight Templars, those soldiers who were partly from Rome, partly from France, and of course, wanting to defend Jerusalem against the Ottomans. The fight for Jerusalem, of course, the Jews migrating to Europe, North Africa, and USA. We have seen all these migrations. Of course, later on, we see the Balfour Agreements and Declaration, 1917. Of course, later on, we see the 1933, over 6 million Jews are killed by Hitler in the Nazi Germany. Of course, we see Jews go into exile again all over Europe after the Nazi execution, after Hitler killing 6 million of them. They now go in so many areas in Europe. They go to Russia. They also persecuted there. They go to the US, of course. They come to the United Kingdom. They go to Poland. They go to Ukraine. They go everywhere. We see the rising of the Ashkenazi Jews and other kind of Jews we shall be able to talk about later on. Of course, there is World War I, there's World War II, and Jews are persecuted. But of course, we note the role the Jews do during these world wars, especially in making ammunition, especially in breaking the enigmatic machine of the Germans and becoming darlings of Europeans. The Jews did a fantastic role in World War I and World War II. They were so bright, they were so brilliant. They are great soldiers. They fought in thousands and they made weapons. We see, of course, in 1924, Jerusalem remained under Islamic control until 1924. Islam was the main occupying force, or called the Ottomans, were ruling that place where Israel is. Of course, in 1910, the Jews start to secretly come back. They come back in thousands, and by the end of 1910, 1920, there were over 200,000 Jews settled back in Jerusalem. By 1910, there were over 200,000 Jews settled back in Jerusalem. They were coming from these countries, coming from the US, coming from UK. They were going back. The rise of Zionism. We want to go back home. We want to go back home. The rise of Zionism had taken a lot of effort. 1947, we see the UN resolution, Security Council, Resolution 424, giving Zionism a place in Palestine. And of course, we see them coming back by force of law. Which country are behind that? Of course, UK supported it. Of course, France, and of course, USA, because they had promised people like the Rothschild, they had promised them they are going to give them their cake, their part of the share in Israel. Remember, there were proposals to take them to Kenya, there were proposals to take them to Uganda. They refused. They said, we are going back home. So 1948, Israel actually go back home. And then there is a war. There is a conflict. 1948, what we called the Al-Nakba, the total destruction, the war of destruction between the Jews and of course the Palestinians. Remember, the Palestinians have been there for 1,000+ years. Someone finds you in a place you have been there for 1,000 years and then says, this is my home. But this person is right because he was once there and he was forced out. By who? Babylonians. By who? Persians. By who? Syrians. By who? Macedonians. By who? Of course, the Greek. By who? The Ottoman Empire. By who? The Romans. Forced them out. They have been away for 1,000 years. So they come back in 1948 and say, this is our home. What do you do? Now there are fights. 1948, they fight. 1963, they fight. 1967, they fight. 1973, they fight. They have been fighting. Nakba. They have been fighting. Of course, homeland claims versus occupation, independence claims, determination versus self-defense. This one say, this is our home. We were here. Now look at this map. Dennis is going to zoom it for a bit. Dennis, zoom it for the viewers, please, if you can. Though I can zoom it on my end here. And this map shows you ancient kingdoms of Israel. It shows you what was Israel. Israel was there. These guys have a legitimate claim at one hand because they were there. Look what Israel up there, up north. Look what Judah in the south. Israel was up north and Judah was down here. You can see in the up north, you can see Samaria. You have heard about Samaria in your Bible. You can see Jaffa, you can see Shechem, you can see Beitin, you can see the Rush. That was the upper part of Israel. But they called it the kingdom of Israel. Remember, the 12 tribes, the 10 remained up, and 2 tribes remained down. Remember the history. Go read your Bible. Israel had 12 tribes. 10 tribes remained up and formed what they called Israel. 2 tribes remained down and formed what they called Judah. Now, with the time, these were the borders. Kingdom of Moab, Kingdom of Ammon. Ask yourself today, who are the Ammonians today? Who are the Moabs today? Who are the Aramean tribes today? Ask yourself. You are going to know Syrians, you are going to know Iranians, you are going to know Iraqi people, you are going to know Jordanians today. These were the neighbors of Israel. The Egyptians up there, you are going to be knowing them. Saudi Arabians, you are going to be knowing them. Jordan, Syria, Turkey, these were the neighbors. These were the neighbors of this great kingdom. Now, as you can see, thank you, Dennis, so much. This was the old kingdom of Israel. Then we move on. I'm doing something very fast. This is another map. Take care of this. Now, I'm still showing you ancient Israel. Israel has been there. That is the case I'm making today. And I'm using justification, which is geographically proven that these guys have been there. These guys have been there. These guys have been there. Now look at the kingdom of Israel, of course, the kingdom of Ammon, kingdom of Judah, kingdom of Moab, and all these guys have been there for a long time. Israel, as you can see Philistines here, Philistia here, Arab tribes, Judah down there. I told you Judah was in the south and Israel was in the north. You can see the king of Edom, Nabato tribes there, Aramean tribes there. These were the neighbors of Israel. So how did the neighbors come to take over is the question. The neighbors, you have seen the Ammonians, you have seen the Moab. How did these guys come to take over? Israel, Samaria, Jerusalem down here, Judah. Jerusalem was part of Judah. the lower part of Israel. There was Moab, there was Ammon, there was Damascus. Remember Damascus? There was Aram, Sidon, Tyre, Samaria, Gaza. You can see Gaza on your left. The left of Judah, you can see Gaza there. Gaza was there. Now they are fighting for Gaza. Gaza has been there for a long time. Ashkelon, Samaria, Jerusalem. You can see all these things have been there. Thank you so much, Dennis. We are continuing. Israel to 930 BC. This is another map, great map. I'm going to take you through this history slowly by slowly. Look at the states that we are neighboring Israel again and appreciate this country. These people have been there. In fact, they have a legitimate cause. I should say that they have a legitimate cause. But how do we handle this cause? Then let us move on now. Thank you so much. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Of course, the languages they spoke Biblical Hebrew. They spoke Israeli Hebrew. There were two kind of Hebrews. There was Biblical Hebrew, which is a bit harder, and they spoke also Israeli Hebrew. My friends in Israel tell me up to now that the most hard language to learn is Hebrew, or the Jewish language. My friends, I have Ghanaian friends in Israel, they keep on telling me that the most hard language to learn is that language of the Jews. They tell me it's a very hard language to learn. Of course, the religion was what? Monotheistic or monotheistic Yahwism. They believed in one God. Then at one point, there was also Mesopotamian, there was also the Canaanites, polytheism, there was also polytheism, and then there was the folk religion. You can see, Judaism has come along the way. There was monotheistic Yahwism, where I believe in one Yahweh. Then the Canaanite polytheism. Then there was Mesopotamian. Then there was polytheism. Then there was folk religion. The monarchy, it was a monarchy. Remember, the first king of Israel was who? Isn't it Saul? Then they went through the Iron Age. The year is there, 1930 BCE and 720 BCE. And then who succeeded? Who took over? There was Samariana. Then today part of Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. I've been telling you these parts of Israel. The Hebrew Bible depicts the kingdom of Israel, were also known as the kingdom of Samaria. Exactly. The kingdom of Israel was also known as the kingdom of Samaria by the Hebrew Bible. And then the two states united, and then they formed the kingdom of Israel at one point. Then this is very beautiful. Thank you so much for this history. I will go ahead and explain this. The kingdom of Israel has been there for that time. Now we see King Saul, the king of Israel. That is between 1021 to 1000 BCE. Those are the years between 1021 to 1000 BCE. Then we see David. David, of course, remember David took over from King Saul. David took over. Here in the photo, you can see David has cut off the head of Goliath, and then becomes a king. But you can see the intersection between David and Saul. David was a young boy who played, entertained these guys in the palace, only to rise up and become the biggest force in the history of Israel. Of course, we'll see the portrait of King David. King David is here now. He has taken over, he has become a factor in the history of Israel. We are moving on very fast, Dennis. Yeah. We see King David and Solomon. David and Solomon were also there around time. Remember, David is the father of course, Solomon, and that is it. And then after Solomon, things went terrible. King Solomon, after King Solomon, Israel never had peace. This emperor had one you see here from 117 to 138 persecuted Israel. This man, Emperor Adrian, persecuted Israel, killed Jews. The year is 130 AD. Killed Jews, and there was blood all over the streets of Jerusalem. Killed Jews, took over their temple, and the priests began crying for God to help them. The priests, it is said, began crying for God because Adrian Adrian had finished them. Now, that was, this is Vasipsian. Vasipsian, one of the guys who is behind the persecution of Israel. Vasipsian, that guy took over the control of Israel, and his son is Titus. Titus also became an emperor of Rome. They also ruled and took these guys into captivity. They made them, of course, prisoners. They made them slaves in their own land. This was the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was quite big by that time. It was very powerful. And Vespasian, Tito, Nero, and others destroyed Israel for quite a long, long time. They were under, of course, the Ptolemaic. They were under, of course, the Seleucid Empire. They were under Vespasian, who was a Roman Empire there, who ruled them for some good time. They were under General Pompey. These are the soldiers attacking Israel. General Pompey also ruled them between 63 BCE and destroyed what we call the Hasmonean dynasty of Judah. Of course, 140 BCE, we see the Romans, of course, taking it over again. Now, here you can see Israel during the time of Herod. When remember Herod took over, the year is 63 BCE. Herod took over, and the Romans, of course, are in charge, but Herod is more of a representative. Herod took over this part of Israel for some time. And remember that the year is 63, and then of course, the new king of Jews, Herod became the new king of Jews in 40 BCE. That man you saw there became the new, he called himself the new king of Jews, Herod. Remember when Jesus was born, as they said there, there was a man called who? No, when Jesus was persecuted. Yes, he called himself the king of what? The king of Jews, 40 BCE. These four Roman emperors ruled in 1 year. And then there was this so-called the Justinian Code. The Justinian Code was a code of conduct. To oversee his new empire, Justinian ordered legal experts to consolidate all Roman laws into a single law code. The Justinian Code served as the legal basis for criminal justice, marriage, property, slavery, and women's rights. The law code became one of the most important legacies in the Byzantine Empire. Remember the Byzantine Empire and how it began? Go and look out a man called Constantine, who ruled from Constantinople. Then we are going to know what was the Byzantine Empire. Look out for Constantine. Titus, I told you Titus was an emperor who ruled after his father. His father was Vespasian. And these two guys destroyed Israel. This guy there on the screen, Titus, destroyed the temple of the Jews in Jerusalem and put it down. He, like Antioch, the Antichrist, as they call him, Titus destroyed Galilee. Titus destroyed Jerusalem. His father was Vespasian, 9 AD to 79 AD. This was the father of Titus. These were two emperors of Rome who destroyed Israel to carpet. They bombed them, if I can use that word. They killed them, and they had to force them to go into exile. Until when Constantine comes in later on, you can see when does Constantine come in? And it comes in 306 AD up to 22nd May 337. This is the guy who now finally, after persecuting the Jews, then he said, okay, we are going to accept Christianity now, normalizes Christianity, it becomes an official religion. Now we remember this guy, Antioch for Epiphanes, and they called him a type of Antichrist. The history of Jerusalem. Antioch, this guy, one of the most crucial, one of the most terrible rulers who destroyed Israel is that man called Antioch. Here, we'll give you some notes. Antioch IV, Epiphanes, the king of Syria, was the king of Syria, captured Jerusalem in the year 167 BC and desecrated the temple by offering sacrifice of a pig on an altar of Zeus. The abomination of desolation. This guy went to Jerusalem knowing that Jews hate pork, and that guy, Antioch, got a pig and put it on the altar that Jews had respected. Got a pig and slaughtered it and didn't even end there. Forced women, children, and men to eat pork. that Antioch was an enemy. And he returned from Egypt, and the year is 168 BC. He goes to, and was defeated in Egypt. Now he goes to attack Jerusalem, and he finishes Jerusalem. He restores Menelaus, the guy who was there ruling. He executed many Jews. They say over 30,000 Jews were killed by Antioch. And after killing them, he took them into captivity. He forced them to go to Babylon. He forced them to go to Rome. He forced them to go to Assyria. He forced them to dislodge themselves from Jerusalem. And after that, what did he do? He made himself the head of Judah, of course, through his emissaries, and made Jews eat pork. He made Jews stop circumcision. He made Jews stop prayers. He knows that they want Judaism. That's the pork we can see. This guy made Jews rare pigs. Antioch, they call him the Antichrist. Antioch made Jews eat pork. Antioch made Jews stop circumcision. Antioch sold Jews in slavery to Rome, slavery to Syria, slavery to Mesopotamia. Antioch forced them to go into slavery. Now, Jews under Rome were in a terrible mess. Whoever came in Rome destroyed the Jews. Remember the Maccabean Revolution? The three brothers who fought under the leadership of their father, Mukasa. Remember that kind of Maccabean revolution? These guys come up, say, Father, we are tired of persecution. Now the Jews gang up under one father, under one man, and then they fight back. Now this is one of the Jews are being forced into captivity. They are being taken to Babylon. The year is 597 BC. They are taken into captivity. You can see that kind of diagram, photo, trying to show you what happened. Jews were taken as slaves. They were slaves in Jerusalem. This is Joshua. I think this is Joshua. These were taken in captivity. Third century. Jews have been suffering. This is their temple. The second temple, Herod's temple. When Herod, after killing them, after taking over, then he takes over the temple. He calls it Herod's temple. The Jewish temple is sacred. The Jewish temple is respected. But who did respect it? Antioch destroyed it. Of course, and others, Adrian destroyed it. This is the Jewish temple, you can see. These guys loved their temple. But the Romans there, as you can see them, always fought them to disgrace their temple. Babylonians, Assyrians, Persians, Medians, and all these guys, including the Cushites, including the Egyptians, overran the Jews at one point. Everyone would attack them, you can see. But one man saved the Israelites from Babylon. That man is called Cyrus the Great. That man is called Cyrus the Great, the Achaemenid Emperor. The Achaemenid Empire, a small empire by that time. Small empire by that time. But that guy, Cyrus the Great, has been named on the streets of Jerusalem. He has been named on some of the streets of Jerusalem because when he came to power, he said, "Go back home." You can see the map of Israel. This is what we call it. It was called at one point Jewish-Palestine. The name Palestine simply didn't come midway or midnight or just like that. It was at one point called Jewish-Palestine. And we are giving these names. Whoever took over Israel could give them the name. In fact, at one point, Israel was called a different name. That place where Israel is was called a different name. Thank you, Dennis, for showing those maps. Go ahead and show them. At one time, Israel was called Area Capitolina. The year is 130 AD. Adrian called Israel Area Capitolina. Area Capitolina. So it never became Palestine overnight. These rulers could come, take over, and give it a name. They say this is no longer Israel. It's now called all these funny names. You can see Lydia, you can see Sardinia. All these were many geographical expressions of the time. You can see the temple, how they could organize this. They rise up, organize their temple. Their temple is destroyed. This is the temple. This is the seat of Jerusalem. This is an impression of what would have happened. How did it look like? According to the description, Jews were really enslaved. The Jews were enslaved. You can see they were in a captivity for a very long time. And Jews, as you can see, that they are people who respect their culture, they respect their Sabbath, they don't eat pork, That's the street in Jerusalem named after Cyrus the Great, who they call Koresh. They call him Koresh, Hamreki Koresh. The temple had all these things, had the gold, the ornaments, the cups. This is the covenant. Remember the covenant? If you have read the Bible as I did, you must have heard about the covenant, where they put their important documents, and they thought actually that Jesus, that their God was governing from the covenant at one time. This is Cyrus the Great, the man who liberated Israel from captivity at one point. Of course, they were happy during the time of Cyrus the Great, and of course, they have also named him as part of their streets in Jerusalem today. This is Cyrus' empire. Cyrus had that empire. The empire was the Medo Persian Empire. This is where Cyrus was the leader, the guy who liberated Jews from captivity, from Babylonia. The guy was called Cyrus the Great. Now, this is the current map of Israel. Today, this is Israel. Look at Israel. It's a stretch. It was small, but has been growing from strength to strength. From where? Attacking Palestinians and taking over their land. They attack Palestinians. Whenever they attack you, they don't go back. And this is the guy behind Israel today. Benjamin Netanyahu has been in office for the last 16 years. He's the guy behind all these plans of attacks and all that. Now, Israel have got this history, as I've had, and of course, until when the Second Temple was destroyed in the first and second century, of course, the Temple of Jerusalem, and of course, the year is in 313. Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, giving official recognition of Christianity as a legal religion. And the year 380, Christianity became the state church of Roman Empire with the Edict of Thessalonica. The Edict of Thessalonica, and it means that Judaism had been chased away by 380 AD by who? Constantine. The Edict of Thessalonica. Constantine chases away Judaism. Now, from all those years, the Jews have been fighting. The Jews have been fighting, and they've been being chased away from their own motherland for all those years. These guys have been in captivity. Do you know that Jews were slaves in Rome? Jews were slaves in, of course, present-day Italy. They were slaves in Russia. They were slaves in Ottoman Empire, Turkey. They have been slaves everywhere. They were slaves in Germany. They were slaves in many of these countries, and have been always the victims of violence. Now, the rise of Zionism comes from that backdrop. As I told you, the year is 1917, Balfour Declaration, the agreement is made, and then they are promised, Rothschild and others, we are taking you back home. You have a land. You have seen the history. They own that place. But 1,000 years ago, these Palestinians had taken over. Who brought them there? The Romans, the Persians, the Assyrians, the Ottoman Empire brought in new people. I remember telling you the new name they had given Israel. The name they had given Israel, Captorina, Ario Captorina, which was given to Israel by who? By Emperor Adrian, which year? 130 AD. Now, all these things have been done to wipe out Israel. It was out for 1,000 years. That's why today, many Jews are Europeanized. Many Jews are intermarried. Many Jews are intermarried. That's why today there's a law, quote me right, in Jerusalem, which has been stopping Jews from having a DNA, ancestral DNA. Why? Because majority of them are European Jews. They don't look like the original Jews. Why? They have intermarried. They have been in America for 1,000 years. So what do you mean? Okay, there was no America 1,000 years, but they have been outside Europe for 1,000 years. They have been in Germany. They have been in Russia for 1,000 years, 500 years, 300 years. So if people have been out, automatically they had to intermarry. And intermarriage was used by them to survive. You go to Russia, marry Russian. You are Jew, Russian. So a child is going to be both a Jew and Russian. But the good thing with Jews, even when they marry an African, they remain a Jew. They don't drop their culture. In the America today, USA today, the Jews remain Jews. They can be married to an American man, a German, an Englishman, whatever it is, but they remain Jews. So the Ashkenazi, we see them coming in from Ukraine, from Russia. The Ashkenazi, remember those Tsar who were partly Jews and all that stuff. We now see them in America, we see them in the UK. They are everywhere. The Ashkenazi are Jews, then there are other shepherd Jews, and then there are others, very different types of Jews. But also we have those Jews who remain within the region. Remember, there were Jews who never left. There were Jews who never left Israel, being persecuted, but they never left. A few of them stayed. In fact, even by 1948, when they are coming back, they found a very good number of Jews there who lived peacefully, with the Palestinians. Jews practicing Judaism and Muslims practicing Islam, and all of them sharing the temple, all of them sharing Jerusalem. They were Jews in 1947 in Israel, but there was no Israel. There was Palestine. But in that land of Ravanti, there were Jews who stayed. So the question has been, why the violence today? Now, today, I was showing you the history of these people. Were they there? I was answering that question. Yes, they were there. Do they have a legitimate claim? Yes. Historically, they have a legitimate claim because we at least know there was their temple there. Up to now, the walls of part of the temple remain there. Up to now, the walls of part of the temple which Solomon built, some of the walls, the Wailing Wall remains there. It means they were there. It's not fantasy, they were there. So, having known that history, also Palestinians have a legitimate claim because they've been there for 1,000 years. Now, if someone has been in place for 1,000 years, what do we expect? But the question is, this one who says, I was there before you, where do you push him? So Zionists want to be there, Palestinians want to be there, and the solution was what? A two-state solution where you can have two countries in one geographical place with boundaries, but it failed. Now, Dennis, that was my summary today. I want to invite Nandip to give a brief take on what I've been saying, and then I'll wind up today's show. Nandip, sir, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Comrade Kato. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. Sorry for the interruption the other time. Can I introduce myself again briefly? Yes.
Nandip, go ahead. I'm going to mute myself so you can be able to speak. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, please. Can you hear me, Nandip? I'm going to mute myself so we can be able to speak. Nandip has network connections. Nandip was going to give us an analysis from his angle. Today, I was giving you the history. But my brother Nandip has a problem with connection. You are going to forgive us. Has a problem with connection.
Hello?
Nandip, if you can hear me, please go ahead. I'm going to mute myself so you can speak. Please go ahead and speak.
Yes, good. My name is Nandip Andrew Bonfa. I'm a board member of the Humanist Association of Nigeria, an agric expert, ex-banker, and a panelist of Humanist TV Africa. Comrade Kato, thank you very much for this topic. Palestinian versus Israel, the Zionists. Honestly, you made a very good discussion on it. And my interest is the BC, that is during your introduction, there is this the birth of Jesus Christ. So I want to comment on that because according to history and according to my own research too, I discovered that there is no Jesus Christ as a living being, as a person that existed on earth. According to the book called the Historical Jesus and the Mystical Christ, written by Gera Masi, or if you read from the Natural Genesis, you will discover that the person that is called Jesus Christ that the Christian worship, of which you, through the introduction, we are told that during his time, that is Jesus Christ, never existed in the first place. According to history, to this research that I've taken out so far, of which I've been reading for like more than 5 years now, the real historical Jesus Christ that we know is Otto bin Pantera. That is Jesus, son of Pantera. Bin is his son, Pantera, of which he existed in history. It was born years back before the years being assigned to Jesus Christ of the gospel, of which is a pupil to Joshua Parechia, which is a rabbi, is a teacher to Joshua bin Pantera. During the revolution of the Pharisees, decided to move into Egypt. From there, when Joshua bin Pantera decided to learn some art. Remember our previous discussion, of which you said in Canada, there's a lot of knowledge in Africa. So in that process, when during the persecution of the rabbite, they moved into Egypt. That's when Joshua bin Pantera, that is Jesus, son of Pantera, learned the art of magic, of which he can perform a lot of things. He can through his talk, some short food will materialize from the sky. The dead will rise. And then when he came back to Judea, because there's no Israel at that particular point in time, it's Judea. And then he gave himself title God, of which he performed a lot of things that the Jewish people, of which is not tally with their own tradition, religion, and culture. And they call him a what? A witch. They decided to what? A sorcerer. They decided to, stone him, and then they crucify him by hanging him on a tree. That is the Jesus of history that many people and the Christians, the Muslim, confused, because they have been told that someone exists called Jesus Christ. Christ is a mystical name. That is a myth, a being that never existed, of which they carry two kind of a person. One is historical and one is mystical and joined together. Of which that meant they carry the name Joshua, which is Jesus, and then Christ, which is not exist. Why can't he be Jesus, son of son of Joseph? And then why is it that they are calling it Jesus Christ? It's a mythical name, something that never existed in the first place. That's why the Christians and the Muslim confuse this being and then think that Jesus Christ existed. Jesus Christ never existed in the first place. It was just a complete what? A brainwash, and it is deceptive, and it is a complete forgery and lie. So we should kind of I've been trying to make other Christians know that the Jesus Christ that they are worshiping, or they so believe in him, is not there. The only Jesus Christ that existed long ago is Joshua bin Pantera, of which some history says, according to researches, that his father is a Roman and his mother she's a Jew. During those times, the Romans are everywhere. At that particular point in time, the Romans ruled the world. The Roman soldiers, get married, pregnant. According to they call her Stada. Stada. It's not even Mary. The Joshua bin Pantera mother's name is Stada, not even Mary. And it was left. That's how in Egypt, that's how he learned the art of magic, and he got his powers. It was killed actually through stoning, and he was hung on a tree. And then the Christian used it that yes, it's a real human being. The one they worship is not a true Jesus Christ. It's kind of a fictional human being that never existed in history. So we have to allow our brothers and sisters knows that what they are doing, that's why they will pray for Jesus Christ. They will not even get a result. They will pray for God. That's why they will not even get a result. But as humanists, we will not, crucify them. Yes, but we have to let them know that yes, whatever thing that they are doing is fruitless. Of course. So we are not atheists that we will say no, don't do what you are doing, but we have to educate you. We believe in humanity. We believe that human beings can coexist together, no matter what is your way of belief. So we sympathize with them, the Christians and the Muslims, but then we must have to educate them about Jesus Christ, of which the Muslim copy from the Christians and the Torah. That's why they believe in Jesus Christ too. They call him Isa. Isa means Jesus. Which of the Jesus of which they cannot be able to identify because due to their forgery. Yes, they forge what they teach their followers is not original. Yes, because the real original person that existed in history, it has been buried down. It has been hidden from the history of humanity. Only the few that can be able to make deep researches and they can be able to know what the truth. And if you are trying to tell people that this is what it is, nobody is ready to accept your part of your story. So in the Palestinian and the Israeli conflict, yes, I really sympathize with the Palestinian, of which in olden days is Palestine, Philistine, of which there is no Israel, as you rightly explained to us. Of course. So the solution to this conflict that is going on in Israel and in the Gaza, the Palestinians have to allow Israel to have their own states. Yes, to see them as their brothers. That's what humanists promote, peace, so that they can live in peace. Without them recognizing the state of Israel, we will continue to have this issue. In 100 years to come, we continue to have this issue. So let the state of Israel be. Let the state of Palestine be. Then we will have peace in the Middle East. Without them recognizing each other, there will be no peace. We cannot have peace in the Middle East. And I cannot understand why the what we call it, the Turkey, the Iranians, the Egyptians and other Arab countries supporting the Palestine and don't want to have the state of Israel. I cannot understand it. Now, what I think about it is because of the religion aspect of it, which is Islam. Because many of the people in Palestine, they are Muslim. And then I know also that there are Jews who practice Judaism, and also there are Christians, because most of them speak Arabic and the language of the Jew, but the most percentage they speak Arabic. So they have that kind of how would I put it? Kind of these people, we speak the same language, I need to support them. Or we believe in the same Allah, we need to support them. And that's the same thing that is happening here in Nigeria too. Things that is happening in Israel or in Palestine, and you can see that Nigerians here react. They are not even Arabs. They are Nigerians. They are Hausas, or they are Bagis, or they are Tarok people that want to become Muslims. But fighting is going on over there. They will start killing their brothers and sisters that they know is here, simply because they worship the same Allah, of which initially they don't even know anything about Allah here. In Africa, we don't know Allah. We have our own traditional gods we worship. Many of them, we have them. So you decided to abandon your own God and worshiping an Arabian god, of which you make you to fast, you make you to go to another man's country for pilgrimage, spending money as tourists in that place, and you are here languishing into poverty and misery and slavery. So we need to decolonize our thinking. We need to talk to our people that there is no God in Israel. There is no God in Saudi Arabia. The God is here with us. That's why my name is Nandip, that my God has buried. That's why YouTube Kato Mukasa is all about gods. We have gods here in Africa. We have gods here in Nigeria. We have gods everywhere in Africa. So why are we so why are we so interested in the gods of the Arabian people? Why are we so interested in the gods of the Hebrew people? Because we took ourselves to be so inferior, or because of the skin color, because we are black. Why are we thinking like that? This is heartbroken.
You have run out of gas. I'm going to request you to mute yourself so that I have no feedback. I have no echo. Can you hear me, Nandip? Okay. Now, let me make a brief analysis of what you have said. You talked about Jesus Christ being a creation. Now, I had intentionally left it there because, you know, I'm an atheist. The fact is that there was no Jesus Christ the way he was depicted to be. If there was Jesus Christ, was a mortal man, he was a simple man, maybe a thief, maybe a robber who was nailed on cross, maybe, if he happened to be there. But what happened is that the year in 1 century, in the 1st century, there was a cult in Jerusalem, a cult, you know, cults, group of people in Jerusalem, in Galilee, in what we may call Israel of today. There was a cult which said they were Christians. It is true, there was a cult. Now, this cult called themselves Christians, following a mythological man, following a man they claim had been born by a virgin woman, following a man they claim had been nailed. But the Jews said, wait a minute, we didn't see this man. Where was this man? The Jews refused. I'm telling the story. The Jews refused. I speak this one on camera. Judaism does not recognize Jesus Christ. Ask yourself why. Why do you say man is born in Masaka, where I come from? And then people of Masaka say, we don't know him. We never saw him. We don't believe in him. It means there's something sinister behind that. And the answer is here. Now, there was a group of marauders who called themselves Christians. The year is 1 century after the so-called death. Now, these marauders, these people, were causing trouble to Emperor Nero. These people were causing trouble to Vespasian. These people were causing trouble to Emperor Titus. Titus is the son of Vespasian. Vespasian is a general, began as a general in the army of Emperor Nero. And then these guys, the Jews, rise up to fight the Romans because the Romans have taken over. Remember, Emperor Adrian, 130, had destroyed their temple. Now, they were everywhere. Pompey, another general, had also destroyed them. These generals, these emperors are destroying Israel. Now, Israel fight back. There is a Maccabean revolution. 3 sons of one man, a man who was an altar man, a Levite, 3 sons, lead Israel, lead Jews to fight against the Romans, to fight against the invaders, the occupiers. Now, the Romans are on tenterhooks. There is a force within Jerusalem. There is a force within Galilee that is fighting them. What do? They look for a solution. What's the solution? They look for a group called the Christians, who are opposed to the Jews. Within Jerusalem, within Galilee, there has been a group of rebels, call them rebels, who call themselves Christians, that they are followers of a Christ, who the Jews have not seen. So the Jews think this group, which claims to be part of us, we don't know it. The Jews say, for us, we are waiting for our Messiah. Up to today, take it from me, the Jews wait for their Messiah. In fact, at one time, they thought that Cyrus the Great, who was not a Jew, Cyrus the Great, who was not a Jew, was their Messiah. At one time, they thought so. In fact, at one time, they thought that even Napoleon the Great, who helped them, was at one, they regarded him as the savior. Whoever's been helping them, they were like, is it a Messiah coming? They never believed in a thief called Jesus Christ, because they never saw him, because they thought that this is a mystery creation of these marauders among us who want to divide us. Now, what does Nero do? Nero sends his army general, Vespasian, Caesar Vespasian. He goes there and he destroys the Jews. He fights over Galilee. They take over 6 months of fighting. In fact, that battle, they say that war, conflict, took about 7 years of fighting. But Vespasian never won them. Jews were good at fighting. They are resisting. Now, Vespasian, Emperor Nero dies, and Vespasian runs back to Rome and he becomes the emperor. There is a scuffle there. Four rulers want the throne. Vespasian beats them down, and then he takes over. Now, Vespasian becomes a leader of Rome, becomes an emperor. Now, meanwhile, he sends his son Titus to become the leader of Judea. Titus goes with an army and destroys Judea. Titus goes with an army, attacks Galilee, attacks Jerusalem. He takes over, he kills Jews and takes them into captivity. Titus, the son of Vespasian. Now, Vespasian dies, 79 AD, dies, and then his son Titus takes over, leaves Judah, where he was a leader there, goes back to Rome, and then thank you, Dennis, very much for showing this. Yeah, I was telling you that Titus leaves Judah. You can see he begins 79, the year I've just mentioned, and the month is even there, 13 September, 12 June, it becomes an emperor, and he dies on 13 September 81 AD, after the death of Jesus Christ, the assumed Jesus Christ. So this guy now takes them over. Titus takes over from his father, Vespasian. Now, there is a theory behind it. I'm going to share it with you. They said, father, who was the father? Who defeats the Jews? The father is who? The father is Vespasian. He sends who? His son, to become the leader of Galilee, the leader of Judah. His son is who? His son is Titus. They say the father and the son. Now, who becomes the Holy Spirit? 325 AD. Another man becomes the Holy Spirit. And this man is called who? Is called Constantine I. So the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit make the Trinity. Now, how do you defeat the Jews, the Maccabean Revolution, which has lasted for about 60 years? The three brothers ruled a quasi-kingdom of Israel for 60 years. The Maccabean Revolution, simply Google it. Now, how do you defeat Jews who are very stubborn? They don't want to be ruled. They don't want to become Romans. They don't want to eat pork. They don't want to live circumcision. They want to worship on a Saturday. They have their special day, and they think they are special. How do you beat them? You use the cult called Christianity, Christ. The cult which says we are Christians. Because this cult is a rebel to the Jews. This cult disagrees with Judaism. Now, how do we weaken Judaism? Create a cult, give it pomp, give it power, give it energy. Whether the Pope, whether the cult, Christian cult had copied from Kemet, it's another day of discussion. But there was a cult in Jerusalem. There was a cult in Judea. And that cult called themselves Christians. And Herod knew them. Herod was an agent of the Romans. He was not Roman. Now, Herod knows them. Now, Titus faces a problem. He's having to fight the Jews. Vespasian has failed to finish them off. Titus fails. His brother, Domitian, also takes over, fails. So, the Flavian dynasty, which had 3 rulers from one family, fails to finish off the Jews. What do? Years go on, about 8 emperors pass, or even more, until Constantine comes in. And the year is 325. He's having a headache from the Jews. They don't want to pay tax. They are rebelling against him. He is killing them. They don't listen. He's imprisoning them. The Jews are terrible. The Jews don't listen to you. The Jews listen to their God. And people having a God like Jews are very hard to beat. They have their Judaism. And they were calling Romans pagans. Constantine became annoyed. That guy there, you see. Constantine became annoyed. Why? The Jews call him a pagan. The Jews call it Vespasian a pagan. The Jews called Titus. All these are emperors. Pagan. They called Pompey a pagan. They were calling everyone a pagan. You don't know God. Our God is the best. Now, everyone hated the Jews. What do? Vespasian beats them. He fails to finish them. He dies 79 AD. His son takes over. Titus beats them as the emperor. He fails to finish them. He dies 81, September 13th. He also dies. And he fails. His brother takes over. He also fails the Jews. The Messiah fails the Jews and goes away. Now, 8 emperors in between, or 10, fail to beat the Jews. The Jews are hard to beat. What do? There is a sect called Christians. Now, they use it. What Emperor Constantine did was to pump the Christians to take over as a state religion to beat the Jews, but also to use Christianity to rally other European countries together to come and fight along him to beat the Ottomans, because the Arabs were becoming a terrible force. The Assyrians were terrible. The Medians were terrible. Now, how do you beat the Arabs, the Ottoman Empire? You have to rally people behind a certain cause, and it won't be you. It must be Christ. But Christ, as I told you, had begun as a cult. That's why the Jews up to now will tell you, we never knew Christ. He is not part of us. He is not our God. Now, you find Africans saying, oh, I'm a Christian. The Jews refused him. Why? He was created by a rebel group who they never trusted. He was created by people like Herod, who they never trusted. He was an agent of the Romans. Now, what does Nero do? What does Titus do? What does Vespasian do? They send their apostle. In fact, Constantine sends his apostle, called him Apostle Paul. He was called Saul. He sends his soldier called Saul to go and defeat them. Saul goes there, and Saul claims he has converted into Paul. He's now a good Jew. He's now a good Jew. He's going to work with them. Who had sent Paul to beat the Jews? It was Constantine. But did he manage? They were almost killing him. He had to run back. Now, that is the history I can share with you. Leave alone the Bible lies and all that stuff. Now, Vespasian fails, the father. The son takes over, who is Titus, also fails. Now, who completes the mission of creating Christianity is the man called Constantine. Now, Constantine is regarded as the Holy Spirit. So the Trinity comes in play. You have the father, Vespasian. You have the son, Titus. You have the Holy Spirit, who completely legalized the Christianity. The year is 38 AD. Christianity is legalized officially. It began 313. They passed the first edict, then of Milan, then the last edict of Thessalonica, 380, completes the mission. Now, Christianity takes over. You are beating who? You are beating the Jews. And at the same time, you are rallying the entire Europe. Because remember, Constantine is European. This is the Roman Empire. These are Europeans. They are not Arabs. But we have a problem of Arabs. Arabs have refused to accept your religion. How do you beat them? You have brought you are Jesus Christ. They are saying we have our Muhammad, we have our Allah. How do you beat the Ottoman Empire? Create a Jesus. The year 1 century, as the first century, Jesus is created. Jesus takes over, and they convince the entire world how conquer. I told you, Roman Empire conquered literally the entire world. The Romans ruled UK until they got tired. There was what called the Roman Britain. Roman Britain. They enslaved them, they ruled them, they killed them. They failed to beat the Romans. On record, They are going to say, oh, we defeated them, but they failed. Roman Empire was big. Roman Empire expanded. Roman Empire took over India. At one point, Roman Empire was somewhere in China. Roman Empire was all over Africa, North Africa. Roman Empire was big. Thank you, Dennis, for showing this map. So the Romans, what do they use? They are using Christianity. They had got a force. They will go to Britain, Britannica, Roman Britannica. They say, take our God. They forced the Britons, the Saxons, and these other guys in Scotland. They forced them to take over a new religion. They had their own religions. Let them tell you. The English had their own religions, had their own gods. The Saxons had their own gods. But who made them drop them? It was the Romans. The Papa Serenes. They go up to India. They try to go up to China. This is the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire was big. And this is how the Roman Empire forces Christ to the people. Why? They want to defeat the Muslims who had risen in the 7th century. 7th, 6th century, Islam and Britain, Muslims are very powerful. How do you beat them? Give them Christ. How do you beat the Muslims of the Ottoman Empire and others? Muhammad has risen. Muslims are very strong. 6th century, 7th century, 8th century, the Roman Empire is so strong. I mean, the Ottoman Empire is rising, the Islamic movement is rising, and now, how does the Roman Empire remain relevant? Rally all Europeans under what? Under one banner of Christianity. And at the same time, the Moors have invaded. Moors are from Africa. They're a mixture of Arabs and Africans. They're a mixture of Europeans and Africans. Moors from North Africa have invaded Europe. Well, how do you beat them? You must use Christianity to beat the Moors. So this is how Christianity is formed. This is how Jesus' cult gets power. The year is 380 AD. It's recognized. It's now official state of Roman Empire. Now, wherever Romans went, the Crusades had begun. They are using Jesus Christ. They are using the cross to go and fight wars, to go and fight the Ottoman Empire. Then, thank you so much. It has been a nice show. I've shot a bit out of my time. But it was very interesting to have you guys on set. And the next show, I'm going to show you what happened when Israel is formed in the present day Israel. The year is 1948. What happened next? It will be in my next show. Thank you so much, Dennis. And thank you so much for the production, the viewers. You have been a great team. See you in the next one.